The candles on my birthday cake flickered as my father cleared his throat at our dining room table in suburban Ohio. I was turning 26, expecting the usual awkward family dinner, when Dad dropped his bombshell. "Jacqueline, we accessed your savings account and withdrew $1,600,000 for Madison's medical school and future expenses." Mom nodded approvingly. "You would have wasted it anyway, honey." Dad chuckled. "Thanks for securing your sister's future with your money." I started laughing too, because what they had actually taken was bait in an elaborate trap I had spent 2 years carefully planning. The laughter died in my throat as I watched my parents exchange satisfied glances across the table. My younger sister Madison, 24 years old with perfectly styled blonde hair, avoided eye contact while cutting her slice of vanilla cake. This moment had been brewing for 8 long years, ever since I turned 18 and entered the workforce, while Madison received the royal treatment. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. When I graduated high school, my parents made their expectations crystal clear. "Madison has academic potential," Mom explained while folding my sister's designer clothes. "She needs our support to reach her goals. You're more practical, Jacqueline. You can handle taking care of yourself." So I did exactly that. I worked double shifts at Romano's Italian restaurant, serving breadsticks and taking orders until 2 in the morning. My feet ached constantly from standing on tile floors, and the smell of garlic followed me home every night. During the day, I stocked shelves at Target, organizing merchandise and dealing with difficult customers who treated retail workers like servants. Between jobs, I tutored high school students in mathematics and English, earning $25 per hour while sitting in coffee shops that smelled like espresso and dreams. Meanwhile, Madison lived like a princess. Mom and Dad paid her rent at a luxury apartment complex near the State University. They bought her a brand new Honda Accord when she turned 20, complete with leather seats and a sunroof. Her credit card bills went straight to Dad's desk, where he paid them without question. Designer purses, expensive dinners, spring break trips to Cancun with her sorority sisters. Madison never worked a single day during college. But the financial inequality was just the surface level. The emotional manipulation cut much deeper. When I asked for help with my community college tuition, Dad shook his head sadly. "Madison's education is an investment in her future. You're studying accounting. That's stable, but not groundbreaking like medicine." When I mentioned feeling overwhelmed balancing work and school, Mom sighed dramatically. "Madison manages her studies beautifully without complaining. Maybe you need better time management skills." The pattern escalated over the years. When I was 22, I had saved $3,000 for a reliable used car. My Honda Civic had died, leaving me dependent on public transportation and rideshare apps. One evening, I discovered my savings account had been drained. Mom explained casually over dinner. Madison needed emergency dental work. Her wisdom teeth were impacted. "We knew you would understand family comes first." At 24, I had accumulated $5,000 for a security deposit on my own apartment. I was sharing a cramped studio with 2 roommates, sleeping on an air mattress in the living room. Again, the money vanished. This time, Dad justified it cheerfully. "Madison's laptop crashed during finals week. You know how important her grades are for medical school applications. We borrowed your money temporarily." The word borrowed became their favorite euphemism. They never repaid a single dollar. When I confronted them, the guilt trips intensified. "After everything we've sacrificed for you girls," Mom would say, dabbing her eyes with tissues, "the least you can do is support your sister's success." Dad would add, "Madison will be a doctor someday. She'll take care of all of us. Your contribution now is an investment in the family's future." Madison never defended me during these conversations. She would sit quietly, texting on her phone or studying her medical school preparation books. Sometimes I caught her looking at me with what might have been sympathy, but she never spoke up. The golden child role suited her perfectly. and she wasn't about to jeopardize her position by challenging our parents' favoritism. By age 25, I realized this pattern would never change. My parents viewed me as Madison's personal funding source, and my sister saw nothing wrong with benefiting from their theft. That's when I made a decision that would transform everything. If they wanted to treat me like a bank account, I would give them exactly what they expected, but with consequences they never imagined. The systematic documentation began immediately. I started recording conversations, saving text messages, and photographing documents. Every interaction became evidence for a case I was building in secret. My parents had trained me to be practical and self-sufficient. Now, I would use those skills against them in ways they never anticipated. The trap was set, and tonight, watching them celebrate their theft of my life savings, I knew they had walked straight into it. Sitting at that birthday dinner table, watching my parents congratulate themselves for stealing what they believed was my entire life savings, I could barely contain my satisfaction. They had no idea they had just grabbed bait from a carefully constructed trap that took me 6 months to perfect. The truth about my finances would have shocked them into silence. While they assumed I was barely scraping by on restaurant tips and retail wages, I had actually accumulated $2,400,000 through strategic investments and business ventures they never suspected. My real wealth came from cryptocurrency investments I made starting at age 21. When Bitcoin was trading for $3,000 per coin, I purchased 10 coins using money from my tutoring business. I watched those investments multiply as digital currency markets exploded. Ethereum, Chainlink, and other alternative cryptocurrencies followed similar trajectories. By age 25, my portfolio had grown to over $800,000. But cryptocurrency was just the beginning. I used my accounting knowledge to start a freelance bookkeeping business, working with small restaurants and retail stores throughout Ohio. Business owners appreciated my attention to detail and reasonable rates. Within 2 years, I was managing financial records for 37 clients, earning 6 figures annually from work I did at home during my free time. The online tutoring platform I created became another goldmine. I developed comprehensive study guides for college accounting and business mathematics courses, selling them through my website for $49 each. Students shared positive reviews, and my customer base expanded nationally. The passive income stream generated another $70,000 yearly, with minimal ongoing effort. My parents never questioned how I afforded my modest apartment or reliable transportation. They assumed I was living paycheck to paycheck, struggling like any normal 20-something. In reality, I was investing every spare dollar into index funds and real estate investment trusts, building wealth that would provide financial security for decades. The decoy account strategy emerged from pure frustration. After watching my parents steal from me repeatedly, I realized they would continue this pattern indefinitely unless I taught them an unforgettable lesson. The plan required patience, careful timing, and theatrical precision. First, I opened a new savings account at a different bank, depositing exactly $1,600,000. This amount was large enough to seem like my entire life savings, but small enough that my parents would feel justified taking it for Madison's medical school expenses. Next, I began leaving strategic clues around my childhood bedroom during family visits. Bank statements showing the large balance accidentally fell out of my purse. I made phone calls about my savings within earshot of my parents, mentioning the specific dollar amount multiple times. When Mom asked about my nest egg during holiday dinner, I smiled mysteriously and said I had been very fortunate with some investments. The technological component required more sophistication. I installed tiny hidden cameras in my bedroom, disguised as alarm clock radios and picture frames. These devices uploaded footage directly to cloud storage, creating permanent records of any unauthorized activity in my personal space. Working with my bank's security department, I arranged for special monitoring on the decoy account. Any access attempts would trigger immediate notifications to my phone and email. The bank manager, Sarah, was sympathetic when I explained my family situation. Financial abuse is more common than people realize, she told me during our private meeting. We see cases like this several times each year. My attorney, David Harrison, helped me understand the legal implications of what I was planning. If they access your account without permission, that constitutes theft, regardless of family relationships, he explained during our consultation. The dollar amount makes this a felony in Ohio. You could pursue both criminal charges and civil restitution. The psychological aspect required the most careful consideration. I needed my parents to believe they were justified in taking my money, that Madison deserved it more than I did. So I began dropping hints about frivolous purchases I was considering. I might buy a luxury car, I mentioned during Sunday dinner, or maybe take a European vacation. I've been working so hard for years. Mom and Dad exchanged meaningful looks when I talked about potential spending. I could practically see them calculating how much money I might waste on unnecessary luxuries. In their minds, redirecting my savings toward Madison's education would be responsible parenting, preventing me from making foolish financial decisions. 3 weeks before my birthday, the hidden cameras captured exactly what I expected. Mom and Dad sat in my bedroom, looking through documents I had deliberately left visible in my desk drawer. "Look at this bank statement," Dad whispered, pointing at the balance. "She's sitting on a fortune, while Madison struggles with student loans. Madison deserves this money more than Jacqueline does," Mom replied, taking photos of my account information with her phone. "Medical school is expensive, and Madison will use her education to help people. Jacqueline would probably waste this on shopping and entertainment." They spent 20 minutes planning their approach, discussing how to access my account, and justifying their decision. Dad mentioned having power of attorney documents from when I was hospitalized with appendicitis at age 23. Mom suggested waiting until my birthday for maximum emotional impact. Watching that footage later, I felt a mixture of heartbreak and vindication. My parents weren't stealing impulsively or desperately. They were methodically planning to rob me, while convincing themselves they were doing the right thing. This wasn't about Madison's needs. This was about their fundamental belief that my hard work and sacrifices meant nothing compared to their precious golden child. Now, as they sat across from me celebrating their successful theft, I understood that my trap had worked perfectly. They had taken exactly what I wanted them to take, creating evidence of premeditated financial abuse that would stand up in any courtroom. The real question was how far I would push this legal process, and what consequences my parents were prepared to face for their years of financial manipulation. The week following my birthday dinner passed in a strange haze of normalcy. My parents called twice to check on me, their voices unusually cheerful as they asked about work and whether I needed any help with expenses. They had no idea their theft had activated a comprehensive evidence collection system I had spent months preparing. My private investigator, Linda Chen, delivered her preliminary report 3 days after the money disappeared. What she uncovered shattered any remaining illusions about my parents' financial situation or moral character. The reality was far worse than simple favoritism or poor judgment. "Your parents are facing complete financial ruin," Linda explained during our meeting at a coffee shop downtown. She spread bank statements and credit reports across the table between us. "They've secretly taken 2 mortgages on the family home. The first mortgage was for Madison's undergraduate expenses. The second happened 6 months ago, ostensibly for home renovations that never occurred." The numbers were staggering. My parents owed $430,000 against a house worth $375,000. They were underwater on their mortgage by more than $50,000, with no realistic path toward recovery, given Dad's gambling addiction and Mom's spending habits. "Your father has lost approximately $320,000 at Riverwind Casino over the past 4 years, Linda continued, showing me casino rewards program statements she had obtained through legal channels. "He's been playing high-stakes blackjack and poker, consistently losing more than he wins. The casino considers him a VIP player because of his losses. But the gambling was just one piece of their financial disaster. Mom had accumulated $67,000 in credit card debt, mostly from shopping sprees at department stores and online retailers. Designer handbags, expensive jewelry, luxury skincare products. She was attempting to maintain a lifestyle their actual income couldn't support. The most shocking revelation involved identity theft. Linda had discovered that my parents had opened 3 credit cards using my social security number when I turned 18, accumulating $23,000 in debt before abandoning the accounts. The unpaid balances had damaged my credit score for years, making it difficult for me to qualify for apartment rentals or competitive interest rates on loans. They also filed false medical insurance claims using your identity, Linda explained, pointing to forms from our family doctor's office. Charges for treatments you never received, submitted to your employer's health insurance plan. The total fraud amount exceeds $8,000. Madison's involvement became clearer through text message records Linda had legally obtained. My sister knew about our parents' financial problems and had actively encouraged them to access my savings account. One message thread from 2 months before my birthday was particularly damning. "Jacqueline acts like she's so responsible with money," Madison had written to Mom. "But she's just hoarding cash while I'm drowning in student loans. You guys should definitely use her savings for my medical school tuition. She owes the family after everything you've done for her." Mom had responded enthusiastically. "Your father and I were thinking the same thing. Jacqueline has always been selfish with her money. This would teach her about family loyalty and help secure your future as a doctor." The extended family manipulation ran deeper than I had imagined. My grandparents had loaned my parents $42,000 over the past 3 years, believing the money was for emergency medical expenses and home repairs. Instead, Dad had gambled most of it away, while Mom purchased luxury items she couldn't afford. My Uncle Robert and Aunt Susan had also fallen victim to my parents' financial deception. They had co-signed a $15,000 personal loan, thinking it was for Madison's educational expenses. In reality, the money had funded Dad's gambling habits and Mom's shopping addiction. The legal consultation with my attorney became even more serious as the scope of fraud and theft became apparent. "We're looking at multiple felony charges," David Harrison explained during our second meeting. "Identity theft, insurance fraud, financial elder abuse regarding your grandparents, and now theft of your savings. The cumulative evidence suggests a pattern of criminal behavior spanning several years. But the most emotionally devastating discovery involved my parents' private conversations about me. Linda had legally obtained recordings from their phones through court orders related to the theft investigation. The way they spoke about me revealed their true feelings with brutal clarity. "Jacqueline has always been the practical child," Dad told someone during a phone call 3 weeks before my birthday. "She'll bounce back from losing that money. Madison needs it more because she's special. Doctors make good money eventually." Mom's comments were even harsher. "Jacqueline is strong and independent," she said during a conversation with her sister. "She doesn't need emotional support like Madison does. Taking her savings will motivate her to work harder and stop being so complacent about her career." They discussed my personality and life choices as if I were a business investment rather than their daughter. Madison was their precious asset requiring protection and nurturing. I was their reliable workhorse, expected to provide financial support without expecting anything in return. The psychological impact of these revelations was overwhelming. For years, I had wondered if maybe I was being too sensitive about their favoritism. Perhaps they did love me equally, but expressed it differently. The recorded evidence eliminated any doubt about their priorities and feelings. The banking investigation revealed even more disturbing information. My parents had attempted to access my real accounts at other financial institutions, using fake identification and forged documents. Only the sophisticated security protocols I had established prevented them from discovering and stealing my actual wealth. Security footage from 3 different banks showed Dad presenting falsified power of attorney documents, claiming I was mentally incapacitated and unable to manage my finances. When bank managers requested additional verification, he became aggressive and threatened legal action for discrimination against families dealing with mental health issues. The scope of their betrayal extended to my workplace as well. My parents had contacted my employer's human resources department, claiming I was experiencing emotional problems and might need intervention. They requested access to my employment records and salary information, presumably to calculate how much money they could potentially steal without destroying my ability to support myself. As I sat in my apartment reviewing all this evidence, the magnitude of what I was dealing with finally hit me. This wasn't just about favoritism toward Madison or poor financial judgment. My parents were career criminals who had systematically exploited everyone who trusted them. The birthday theft was simply their most recent crime, and without intervention, they would continue stealing and defrauding people indefinitely. The legal process would destroy their reputations and relationships, but they had earned every consequence through years of calculated betrayal. Tomorrow, I would file criminal charges and begin the civil lawsuit that would ensure they faced accountability for their actions. The trap had captured more evidence than I ever expected, and now it was time to spring it completely. The following Saturday morning, I called a family meeting at my parents' house. They arrived expecting another emotional conversation about my financial irresponsibility and Madison's bright future. Instead, they walked into a carefully orchestrated confrontation that would expose 8 years of systematic theft and fraud. I had arranged for my attorney to participate via video conference call, along with Linda, my private investigator. Madison sat nervously on the living room couch, twirling her hair and checking her phone repeatedly. Mom and Dad settled into their matching recliners, wearing expressions of parental concern mixed with barely concealed smugness. "I want to discuss the money you took from my account," I began, setting my laptop on the coffee table so everyone could see David Harrison's face on the screen. "Before we continue, I need you to understand that this conversation is being recorded for legal purposes." Dad leaned forward, his eyebrows furrowing with confusion. "Jacqueline, honey, we've already explained our decision. Madison needs that money for medical school. We're her parents, and we have to think about her future." "That's exactly what we need to talk about," I replied, opening the first folder of evidence Linda had compiled. "Let's start with the surveillance footage from my bedroom 3 weeks ago, when you two planned this theft." The color drained from Mom's face as I played the video on my laptop screen. The audio was crystal clear, capturing their entire conversation about accessing my account and justifying their decision to steal my savings. Dad's voice filled the living room. "She's sitting on a fortune while Madison struggles with student loans." "This recording establishes premeditation," David explained from the video call. "Your parents planned this theft for weeks, documenting their intent to steal money they knew belonged to you." Madison stared at the screen in shock. "You guys recorded yourselves planning to steal from Jacqueline?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We weren't stealing," Mom protested, standing up and pacing toward the window. "We were redirecting resources within the family. Jacqueline has more money than she needs, and Madison has educational expenses. Let's examine that claim," I said, retrieving the second folder from Linda's investigation. "I hired a private investigator to review your financial situation. Would you like to explain your gambling debts, Dad? Or the secret mortgages you've taken on this house?" Dad's confidence evaporated as I spread casino statements across their coffee table. "You've lost $320,000 gambling over 4 years," I continued, watching his face turn pale. "Mom, your credit card debt is $67,000, mostly from luxury shopping sprees. Where did you get this information?" Mom demanded, her voice rising with panic. "This is private financial data. Legal court orders obtained during the theft investigation," David answered from the laptop screen. "Your daughter has been documenting financial crimes for months. The evidence goes far beyond the recent theft." I pulled out the credit reports, showing accounts opened with my social security number. "Identity theft," I announced, sliding the documents toward my parents. 3 credit cards, $23,000 in unpaid debt, all using my identity without permission. Madison grabbed the papers, scanning them quickly. They opened credit cards in your name? She asked, looking between our parents with growing horror. That's not all, I continued, producing the medical insurance fraud documentation. False medical claims submitted using my identity. Treatments I never received. Paid for by my employer's health insurance. $8,000 in fraudulent charges. The room fell silent except for Mom's heavy breathing and the sound of Madison shuffling through evidence papers. Dad stared at his hands, unable to make eye contact with anyone. There's more, Linda announced, speaking for the first time since joining the video call. Your parents attempted to access multiple bank accounts using forged power of attorney documents. Security footage shows your father claiming Jacqueline was mentally incapacitated. I played the bank security videos on my laptop, showing Dad presenting fake documents and becoming aggressive when managers requested verification. Mom watched herself on camera, standing beside him and confirming his false claims about my mental health. This can't be real, Madison whispered, dropping the papers onto the floor. You guys told me Jacqueline was irresponsible with money. You said she needed guidance and structure. Let's discuss what they told you, I said, producing printed text messages between Madison and our parents. Here's a message thread where you encourage them to steal my money, calling me selfish and saying I owed the family for their support. Madison read her own words, her face flushing red with embarrassment and guilt. I thought you were just hoarding money while I struggled, she said quietly. Mom and Dad always said you had plenty, but refused to help with family expenses. Speaking of family expenses, I continued, pulling out bank statements showing the extended family loans. Grandma and Grandpa loaned you $42,000, believing it was for medical emergencies. Uncle Robert and Aunt Susan co-signed a $15,000 loan for Madison's education. Where did that money actually go? Dad finally spoke, his voice hoarse and defeated. The casino. And some of it went to covering Mom's credit card payments. We thought if Madison became a successful doctor, she could help repay everyone later. You were gambling away money our family members loaned you in good faith, I said, letting the weight of that betrayal sink in. They trusted you with their life savings, and you threw it away on blackjack tables. Mom sat back down heavily, tears streaming down her cheeks. We never meant for things to go this far, she sobbed. We just wanted to give Madison every opportunity to succeed. You were always so independent and capable. We thought you could handle taking care of yourself. Let me show you exactly how capable I am, I said, pulling out my real bank statements. The money you stole was from a decoy account I created specifically to catch you in the act of theft. I spread my actual financial documents across the coffee table. Investment portfolios, business income statements, cryptocurrency holdings, real estate assets. The numbers added up to $2,400,000 in legitimate wealth I had accumulated through hard work and intelligent investing. This is impossible, Dad stammered, picking up my brokerage statements. You're a waitress and retail worker. How could you have this much money? Freelance accounting business, online tutoring platform, cryptocurrency investments, index funds, I replied calmly. I've been building wealth for years, while you assumed I was barely surviving. The $1,600,000 you stole was bait in a trap designed to document your criminal behavior. Madison stared at the financial documents in disbelief. You're a millionaire? She asked. And Mom and Dad have been calling you financially irresponsible this whole time? The projection is remarkable, David commented from the video call. Your parents have destroyed their finances through gambling and overspending, then blamed Jacqueline for being selfish with money she earned through legitimate business activities. What happens now? Mom asked, wiping her eyes with tissues. We can return the money. We can apologize and make this right. Criminal charges have already been filed, I announced, watching their faces crumble with the reality of legal consequences. Identity theft, insurance fraud, theft, attempted forgery. The district attorney's office received all evidence yesterday. You called the police on your own parents? Dad asked, his voice breaking with emotion. I documented crimes committed by people who happened to be my parents, I corrected. Your relationship to me doesn't exempt you from laws against theft and fraud. The confrontation had achieved everything I hoped for. My parents finally understood the scope of their criminal behavior and the evidence documenting their actions. Madison witnessed their manipulation and lies firsthand, forcing her to confront her role in enabling their financial abuse. But this was only the beginning of their reckoning. The legal process would take months, during which their reputations, careers, and relationships would disintegrate completely. They had earned every consequence through years of systematic betrayal, and now they would face accountability for their actions. As I packed up my evidence folders, preparing to leave their house for the last time as their victim, I felt a mixture of sadness and liberation. The family I thought I knew had never really existed. But the family I was building, based on truth and mutual respect, would be stronger than anything founded on lies and financial manipulation. The arraignment hearing took place on a cold Tuesday morning in October, exactly 1 month after my birthday confrontation. I sat in the second row of the courtroom, watching my parents shuffle to the defendant's table in handcuffs and orange jumpsuits. The sight of them in custody should have broken my heart, but instead I felt a profound sense of justice finally being served. Judge Patricia Williams read the charges with clinical precision. Robert Charles Patterson, you are charged with identity theft in the first degree, theft of property exceeding $100,000, insurance fraud, and attempted forgery. Patricia Ann Patterson, you are charged as an accessory to identity theft, theft of property exceeding $100,000, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The prosecution had built an airtight case, using the evidence Linda and I had collected over months of investigation. Assistant District Attorney Michael Rodriguez presented bank records, surveillance footage, recorded conversations, and financial documents that painted a clear picture of systematic criminal behavior spanning multiple years. The defendants engaged in a pattern of financial abuse, targeting their eldest daughter, extended family members, and insurance companies, Rodriguez explained to Judge Williams. The evidence shows premeditated theft, identity fraud, and exploitation of trust relationships for personal gain. My parents' attorney, Sandra Walsh, attempted to characterize their actions as family financial misunderstandings rather than criminal behavior. My clients believed they were making responsible decisions about family resources, she argued. The money in question was intended to support their younger daughter's medical education, which would benefit the entire family. Judge Williams was not persuaded by this argument. The evidence clearly shows the defendants accessed bank accounts without authorization, used false identification documents, and committed fraud across multiple institutions, she stated firmly. Family relationships do not exempt anyone from criminal prosecution for theft and fraud. Bond was set at $50,000 each, which my parents could not afford given their financial situation. They remained in custody, pending trial, scheduled for January. The local newspaper covered the story with a headline that destroyed their reputations in our small Ohio community. Local couple charged with stealing daughter's life savings. The civil lawsuit moved forward simultaneously with criminal proceedings. My attorney filed for immediate asset freezing to prevent my parents from hiding or disposing of property before trial. Their house, cars, and remaining bank accounts were placed under court supervision. But the most shocking development came during discovery, when Madison's role in our parents' criminal enterprise became fully apparent. My sister had been far more involved in their financial schemes than anyone realized, including herself. Madison has been unknowingly committing identity theft for 2 years, David Harrison explained during our case review meeting. Your parents used her social security number to open multiple credit cards, accumulating over $30,000 in debt that she knew nothing about. The evidence showed that Mom and Dad had been preparing Madison to be their next victim once my resources were exhausted. They had already accessed her credit reports and were planning to take loans against her future medical practice earnings. Your sister is actually another victim of your parents' financial abuse, Linda added, showing me credit applications filled out with Madison's information, but signed by our parents. They've been setting her up for financial exploitation while convincing her that you were the family's financial problem. This revelation prompted Madison to request a meeting with me for the first time since the confrontation. We met at a coffee shop near her apartment, both of us struggling with the emotional complexity of what our family had become. I need to apologize for believing their lies about you, Madison said, stirring sugar into her coffee with shaking hands. I thought you were selfish and irresponsible. I never imagined they were committing crimes, or that they had stolen from you repeatedly. They manipulated both of us, I replied, studying my sister's face for signs of genuine remorse. They convinced you that I was the problem, while setting you up to be their next victim. Madison pulled out financial documents showing credit cards she had never applied for or used. I discovered these when I tried to refinance my student loans, she explained. My credit score was destroyed by debt I didn't even know existed. The conversation revealed how thoroughly our parents had isolated us from each other through lies and manipulation. They told Madison I refused to help with family expenses, while telling me that Madison felt entitled to my financial support. Neither story was true, but we had never compared notes to discover their deception. I want to testify against them, Madison announced, surprising me with her determination. They've been committing crimes for years, and someone needs to stop them before they hurt more people. Madison's testimony became crucial for the prosecution's case. She provided detailed information about conversations where our parents planned financial schemes, discussed stealing from family members, and justified their criminal behavior as responsible parenting. The extended family impact was devastating. When Grandma and Grandpa learned their $42,000 loan had been gambled away, Grandpa suffered a mild heart attack from the stress. Uncle Robert and Aunt Susan faced financial hardship because of the personal loan they had co-signed in good faith. Your parents' crimes created a ripple effect throughout your entire extended family, David explained during one of our strategy sessions. Everyone who trusted them financially has suffered losses, both monetary and emotional. The criminal trial began in January, with extensive media coverage. Local news stations interviewed family members, neighbors, and co-workers who expressed shock at learning about my parents' secret criminal activities. Dad's employer, a small accounting firm, terminated his position immediately after his arrest. We cannot employ someone who has been charged with financial crimes, his former boss told reporters. Our clients need to trust us with their money and confidential information. Mom's job at the elementary school lasted slightly longer, but she was eventually placed on administrative leave when parents complained about having a suspected criminal working with their children. The school board voted unanimously to terminate her contract pending the outcome of criminal proceedings. The financial reckoning extended beyond criminal penalties. The civil lawsuit sought full restitution for stolen money, legal fees, and damages for credit score destruction caused by identity theft. My attorney estimated total financial accountability could exceed $300,000, money my parents simply did not have. Their house went into foreclosure proceedings, as they fell behind on mortgage payments without steady income. The luxury car Mom had purchased with credit card debt was repossessed by the financing company. Their comfortable middle-class lifestyle disintegrated completely within 4 months of their arrest. But the most profound impact was emotional rather than financial. Our extended family relationships were permanently damaged by betrayal and exploitation. Holiday gatherings, family traditions, and social connections built over decades were destroyed by my parents' criminal behavior. Madison and I began rebuilding our relationship on a foundation of honesty rather than parental manipulation. We discovered we actually had more in common than either of us had realized, including shared interests in financial planning and helping other families navigate crisis situations. I'm considering switching from medicine to financial counseling, Madison told me during one of our weekly coffee meetings. After seeing how financial abuse destroys families, I want to help people recognize and escape these patterns. The legal process was approaching its conclusion, with my parents facing potential prison sentences and financial ruin. But the real victory was not their punishment, but rather the truth finally being exposed, and justice being served for years of systematic betrayal. Justice was about more than criminal convictions or financial restitution. Justice was about accountability, consequences, and preventing future victims from suffering the way our family had suffered. The trap had worked perfectly, capturing evidence of crimes that might otherwise have continued indefinitely. The most unexpected gift to emerge from this legal nightmare was discovering who Madison really was beneath years of parental manipulation and golden child conditioning. 3 months into the criminal proceedings, my sister underwent a transformation that surprised everyone, including herself. "I need to show you something," Madison said during one of our Saturday coffee meetings, pulling out a small digital recorder. "I've been documenting Mom and Dad's conversations during jail visits. They're still trying to manipulate me into believing this whole situation is your fault." She pressed play, and our parents' voices filled the coffee shop corner where we were sitting. Mom's voice was particularly clear. "Madison, honey, you need to talk sense into Jacqueline. She's destroying our family over money that we needed for your future. This whole legal nightmare could disappear if she would just drop the charges." Dad's voice joined the recording. "Jacqueline has always been vindictive and stubborn. She's using this situation to get revenge for imaginary slights from childhood. You're our hope for reconciliation, sweetheart." Madison stopped the recording and looked at me with tears in her eyes. "They're still lying," she said quietly. "Even sitting in jail cells, facing prison time for crimes they absolutely committed. They're trying to convince me that you're the villain in this story." "How long have you been recording them?" I asked, impressed by her initiative. "Since their second week in custody," Madison replied, pulling out a folder thick with transcribed conversations. "I started because something felt wrong about their explanations. They kept changing details about why they took your money and how much they actually needed for my expenses." Madison had captured 4 months of jailhouse conversations, revealing the true depth of our parents' criminal mindset. They discussed hiding assets, manipulating family members, and planning to declare bankruptcy to avoid civil judgment. Most disturbing, they plotted to blame their crimes on stress-related mental health issues. "Listen to this conversation from last week," Madison said, queuing up another recording. Mom's voice emerged from the device. "The gambling addiction defense might work for your father, but we need a different strategy for me. Maybe postmenopausal depression or anxiety about Madison's education costs." Dad responded enthusiastically. "Mental health issues could explain our poor judgment. Juries sympathize with people struggling with psychological problems. They spent 20 minutes discussing how to fake mental illness symptoms to gain sympathy during trial proceedings. The cold calculation behind their planning was more disturbing than their original crimes. This recording proves they're not actually remorseful," I said, studying Madison's notes about their conversations. "They're strategizing to avoid consequences rather than accepting responsibility." "It gets worse," Madison said, producing another folder labeled Financial Planning. "They've been asking me to help hide money and property from the civil lawsuit. They want me to claim ownership of assets that actually belong to them." The scheme involved transferring title of their remaining property to Madison's name, then claiming she had purchased everything with legitimate funds. They assumed their golden child would help them commit additional fraud to protect what remained of their wealth. "They ask you to commit crimes to help them avoid accountability for other crimes," I summarized, shaking my head at their audacity. "I told them absolutely not," Madison replied firmly. That conversation was when I finally understood they will never accept responsibility for what they've done to our family. Madison's decision to record these conversations and refuse participation in additional criminal schemes marked a turning point in her personal development. For the first time in her life, she was thinking independently rather than simply accepting our parents' version of reality. "I've been going to therapy," she announced, surprising me with this personal revelation. Dr. Sarah Williams specializes in family financial abuse and golden child syndrome. She's helping me understand how mom and dad's favoritism damaged both of us. The therapy sessions had revealed how Madison's identity was entirely constructed around parental expectations and praise. She had never developed independent decision-making skills or personal values separate from what our parents wanted her to think and feel. "I realized I don't actually want to be a doctor," Madison confessed during our conversation. "I chose medicine because mom and dad convinced me it was prestigious and financially secure. But I hate studying for the MCAT, and I have no genuine interest in patient care." "What do you actually want to do?" I asked, curious about her authentic interests. "Financial counseling for abuse victims," she said, without hesitation. "After seeing what mom and dad did to us, and learning about how common family financial abuse is, I want to help people recognize these patterns and escape them." Madison had already begun volunteering at a local nonprofit organization that provided financial literacy education to domestic violence survivors. Her personal experience with family financial manipulation made her particularly effective at identifying warning signs other counselors might miss. "The stories I hear are heartbreaking," she told me. "Parents stealing children's student loans, spouses hiding assets, adult children draining elderly parents' retirement accounts. Financial abuse destroys families and leaves victims feeling helpless." Her volunteer work led to academic opportunities as well. The state university offered Madison a scholarship to study social work with a specialization in financial abuse prevention. The program would prepare her to work with law enforcement, courts, and social service agencies on cases involving financial exploitation. "I want to testify at mom and dad's sentencing hearing," Madison announced, showing me a draft of her victim impact statement. "The judge needs to understand how their crimes affected both of us, and how they've continued manipulating people even from jail." Madison's testimony would be powerful because she had been their favored child, the supposed beneficiary of their criminal behavior. Her willingness to speak against them demonstrated that their crimes had damaged the entire family, not just me. The victim impact statement she prepared was emotionally devastating. Madison described feeling betrayed and manipulated when she learned about the identity theft committed in her name. She explained how their lies had poisoned her relationship with me for years, preventing us from supporting each other through their systematic abuse. "My parents convinced me that Jacqueline was selfish and irresponsible," she wrote in her statement. "They used me as a weapon against my sister while secretly stealing from both of us. Their crimes destroyed our family trust and left all of us financially and emotionally wounded." But the most powerful aspect of Madison's transformation was her decision to pursue restitution for the identity theft committed against her. She filed a separate lawsuit seeking damages for credit score destruction and unauthorized debt accumulated in her name. "I'm not letting them get away with victimizing me just because I was their favorite," she told me with determination I had never heard in her voice before. "They committed crimes against me too, and they need to face consequences for all their actions." The Madison I was getting to know through this legal process was intelligent, principled, and genuinely committed to justice. Years of golden child conditioning had hidden her authentic personality, but crisis had forced her to develop independence and moral courage. "I'm proud of you," I told her during one of our coffee meetings, meaning it completely. "You could have continued believing their lies and blamed me for their problems. Instead, you chose truth and justice, even when it was difficult." Madison smiled, looking more confident than I had ever seen her. "I'm proud of us," she replied. "We survived their manipulation and found each other despite everything they did to keep us apart. Our relationship was becoming something our parents had never intended. A genuine partnership between equals who respected each other's experiences and supported each other's goals. The golden child and scapegoat dynamic was finally broken, replaced by authentic sisterhood, built on truth and mutual respect. The recordings Madison had collected would prove crucial during sentencing, demonstrating that our parents remained dangerous and unrepentant even after their convictions. Her courage in documenting their continued criminal planning would help ensure they received appropriate consequences for their actions. But more importantly, Madison's personal growth showed that recovery from family financial abuse was possible. With therapy, support, and commitment to truth, both victims and enablers could break free from destructive patterns and build healthier relationships based on honesty and mutual respect. The final chapter of this legal saga concluded on a warm spring morning in May, 11 months after my 26th birthday dinner when this nightmare began. Judge Williams called the sentencing hearing to order, and I watched my parents enter the courtroom one last time as convicted criminals facing the consequences of their 8-year crime spree. The jury had deliberated for 3 days before returning guilty verdicts on all charges: identity theft, grand theft, insurance fraud, conspiracy, and elder abuse for stealing from my grandparents. The evidence had been overwhelming, particularly Madison's recordings of their jailhouse conversations plotting to hide assets and fake mental illness. Dad received 18 months in state prison plus 5 years probation. Mom got 12 months plus 4 years probation. The sentences were appropriate, given their lack of criminal history, but significant enough to serve as deterrents against future financial crimes. The defendants exploited family relationships to commit systematic theft and fraud, Judge Williams stated during sentencing. Their victims trusted them completely, making these crimes particularly heinous. Prison sentences are necessary to protect the community and demonstrate that financial abuse has serious consequences. The civil lawsuit concluded with a judgment of $412,000 in restitution, legal fees, and damages. My parents would spend decades repaying the money they had stolen from me, my grandparents, and other family members. Their financial ruin was complete and permanent. But the most meaningful outcome was not their punishment. The real victory was the transformation that had occurred within our family and the positive impact our story had on other families facing similar abuse. Madison testified powerfully during the sentencing hearing, her victim impact statement bringing several jurors to tears. "My parents' crimes taught me that love without respect is meaningless," she told the court. "They claimed to love me while stealing from my sister. They claimed to love our family while destroying it through lies and manipulation." Her words captured the essential lesson we had both learned through this painful experience. Genuine love requires honesty, respect, and accountability. Our parents' version of love had been possessive, controlling, and ultimately destructive to everyone it touched. Madison followed through on her commitment to study financial abuse prevention. She completed her degree in social work with highest honors, specializing in family financial exploitation. Her thesis research on golden child syndrome and scapegoat dynamics was published in a professional journal, contributing to academic understanding of these destructive family patterns. "I want to help other families recognize financial abuse before it destroys relationships the way it destroyed ours," Madison explained during her graduation speech. She had been selected as the student speaker for her graduating class, using the platform to raise awareness about financial exploitation within families. Madison now works as a victim advocate with the district attorney's office, helping prosecutors understand the psychological dynamics of family financial abuse cases. Her personal experience and professional training make her uniquely qualified to support other victims through the legal process. My own career evolved in equally meaningful directions. I expanded my accounting business to specialize in financial recovery for abuse survivors, helping clients rebuild credit, recover stolen assets, and establish financial independence from abusive relationships. Financial security is the foundation of freedom, I tell my clients during initial consultations. When someone controls your money, they control your choices and your future. Rebuilding financial independence is essential for breaking free from abuse. The consulting firm I established Patterson Financial Recovery Services has helped over 300 families navigate financial abuse situations. We work closely with law enforcement, attorneys, and social service agencies to provide comprehensive support for victims seeking justice and independence. One of our most successful programs involves financial literacy education for young adults, teaching them to recognize warning signs of family financial exploitation. The curriculum includes sections on identity protection, banking security, and legal rights regarding personal financial information. Prevention is always better than prosecution, I explain to audiences during speaking engagements at colleges and community organizations. Young people need to understand their financial rights and protect themselves from exploitation, even by family members they trust. My grandparents recovered emotionally and financially from my parents' betrayal, thanks to the civil lawsuit restitution and support from Madison and me. Grandpa's health improved significantly once the stress of their financial problems was resolved through legal accountability. We're proud of both our granddaughters, Grandma told me during our last family gathering. You showed courage by seeking justice, and Madison showed wisdom by choosing truth over family loyalty. Both of you honored what family should really mean. Uncle Robert and Aunt Susan also recovered from the financial damage caused by co-signing my parents' fraudulent loan. The civil judgment ensured they were repaid in full, along with interest and legal fees. Their faith in family relationships was damaged but not destroyed. The extended family gatherings have resumed, but with a new dynamic based on honesty and mutual respect, rather than blind loyalty and enabling behavior. We discuss financial boundaries openly, share information about our situations transparently, and support each other without sacrificing our individual security. Mom and Dad served their full sentences without early release, as they continued displaying manipulative behavior even in prison. They participated in mandatory financial crime counseling, but showed little genuine remorse for their actions. Upon release, they were required to attend weekly therapy sessions and submit to financial monitoring as conditions of probation. They moved to a small apartment in a different city, struggling to rebuild their lives after losing their home, careers, and most family relationships. We hope someday you can forgive us, Dad wrote in a letter he sent to Madison and me during his final month in prison. We know we made mistakes, and we want to repair our relationship with both of you. Madison and I discussed their letter carefully before responding. We agreed that forgiveness would require genuine accountability, consistent behavioral change, and respect for the boundaries we had established to protect ourselves from future manipulation. Forgiveness is possible, Madison wrote back to them. But trust must be earned through actions, not words. Your probation period will demonstrate whether you've actually changed or are simply saying what you think we want to hear. The relationship between Madison and me has become the strongest and most authentic connection in our lives. We speak multiple times each week, support each other's career goals, and have developed the sisterhood our parents' manipulation had prevented for years. Sometimes I wonder what our relationship would have been like if Mom and Dad had been honest with us from the beginning, Madison mused during one of our regular coffee meetings. We can't change the past, I replied, but we can make sure our future relationships are built on truth and mutual respect. That's the gift we can give ourselves, and any families we might have someday. The financial literacy program Madison and I developed together has reached thousands of young adults through college presentations and online resources. We share our story as a cautionary tale about family financial abuse, while providing practical tools for protection and recovery. Your parents' crimes created something positive in the end, David Harrison observed during our final legal consultation. Your advocacy work has prevented other families from experiencing similar abuse. That's a meaningful legacy from a painful experience. The deep life lesson that emerged from this ordeal transcends financial security or legal justice. True family wealth comes from relationships built on honesty, respect, and genuine care for each other's well-being. When family members exploit each other financially, They destroy the trust that makes authentic love possible. Setting boundaries with family members who exploit your success is not selfish or disloyal. It's necessary self-care that protects your ability to help others from a position of strength, rather than enabling destructive behavior that harms everyone involved. Most importantly, I learned that recovering from family betrayal requires choosing truth over comfort, justice over false peace, and authentic relationships over familiar dysfunction. The pain of confronting family crimes was temporary, but the freedom and healing that resulted have been permanent and transformative. The trap I set for my parents caught more than evidence of their crimes. It captured the truth about our family dynamics and created an opportunity for Madison and me to build a genuine relationship based on honesty and mutual respect. Now, as I sit in my office helping other families navigate financial abuse situations, I understand that my parents' betrayal became the catalyst for meaningful work that helps people protect themselves and their families from exploitation. Have you ever faced a situation where family members took advantage of your trust or success? How did you handle the conflict between loyalty and protecting yourself? I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you or helped you recognize warning signs of financial abuse, please like this video and share it with friends who might benefit from learning about these important topics. Your support helps us reach more people with resources and information that could protect them from exploitation. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more true stories about overcoming family challenges and building financial independence. We upload new content weekly, sharing real experiences and practical advice for navigating difficult family situations. Thank you for listening to my story and supporting this community of people who believe that truth, justice, and authentic relationships are worth fighting for. I hope you find the courage to protect yourself and the wisdom to build relationships based on genuine love and mutual respect.